art, politics, culture, and business. Yeah, entertaining and educational, this is major. Special guests, talking plenty movers and shakers. Cleveland in the house, the time is right now. Strategic Moves Radio Show with Kenn Dowell. Time to motivate, inspire, and right now, this is what you need. And it's hosted by Kenn Dowell, art, politics, and culture. So let's go. Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell Radio Show. Let your voice be heard, time to elevate. Ay, call in or talk to me Tuesday. Ay, let your voice be heard, time to elevate. 95.9 FM, tune in and don't wait. What's on your mind Tuesday? Streaming on WOVU.org and 95.9 FM. And don't just listen, jump in and be the conversation. Let's go.
Hey, what's up, everybody? You tuned in to another episode of Strategic Moves with Dr. Heather Burton and Kenn Dowell Radio Show. Every Tuesday, we come to you live at WOVU 95.9 FM, where we bring together art, culture, politics, and business, and we talk about those things and give you an opportunity to be a part of that conversation. So you can do that today by, if you're following us on any of our social media networks, you can go ahead and tune in and leave a comment there. We're going to be able to make sure we put that up on so that you get an opportunity to see that. I wanted to give a special shout out today because a lot of people don't understand how hard it is for us to put these shows together, man. We go through a whole lot of effort just to make it good for you, to give you an opportunity to be able to see it in various different ways. So in order for us to do that, I want to make sure we give a good shout out to some of the people who do that. We got DJ True. He's the guy, his company, who helps us pull all of this stuff together. Schoolhouse Production, they do all the video production for us and things of that nature. Everybody knows we have DJ Unicorn, who basically does all of the music you hear in the background, and she's our engineer that keeps everything flowing, and she keeps us up to date what's going on in the hood. And then we also added a new staffer. Every person in my house ended up working for me for one way or another. And so we added another.
Is that child labor? Are we like?
I think it's reverse child labor. They get more out of me than I get out of them. That's for sure. I don't know if I'm.
I don't know. We might have to do a panel discussion one day with the children.
Yeah, I think, it's something a little different about that. It's reverse. It's supposed to get labor out of them. They get a lot more out of me. But we added Liberty. She's going to be taking care of all our social media needs. So if you guys are out there looking at us on social media, that's where you leave your comments and things of that nature. She'll make sure we get that up on the thing. And as normal, we have Dr. Heather Burton in the house.
I'm here.
Doctor? You here on time today?
A little bit.
Well, you was here before we started.
I was here before the mics came on. Before the mics was hot, I was here.
Yeah, you was here. So everything is good. We here today. We got DJ Unicorn. What's happening? What's going on in the neighborhood? What's happening in Cleveland?
It's a smile on her face, though, so this might not be too
really
rough.
Good that's happening today. What's up? What's up? What's up?
Hello, everybody. How y'all living? How y'all feeling? How y'all doing?
Oh, everything.
Good. And you?
I'm
good.
I'm good.
I'm good. I'm coming off of a great weekend. I was able to spend a lot of time by myself, which is always good because if you are self-aware, then you can make positive, impactful decisions upon yourself, upon your community. And it was important to me to just sit down this weekend because there's been a lot of moving pieces. But I got a lot going on. Tonight, I'm at Lyrical Rhythms at B-Side for open mic. If you're a poet, if you write, if you just want to talk crap on the mic, if you're a comedian, whatever it is that you do, if you want to come do it tonight at B-Side, it's a comedy hour, 2 comedy hours from 8 to 10, and then 10 and the open mic starts. So pull up on me. I will be hosting this evening Lyrical Rhythms B-Side right there on Coventry. Thursday, we got Futureland. Are y'all familiar with Futureland? No, please tell us.
I am familiar with it. I wanted
not.
to be a part of that this year.
You did?
Yeah, I wanted to.
Well,
I'm going to definitely go to it. But tell everybody what's up with Futureland.
So Futureland, for those who may not have heard about Futureland, I think this is their 3rd year. So this year, they are focused on forwarding AI Summit. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Futureland AI Forward Summit, presented by Google, is a dynamic community power summit designed to position Cleveland as a trailblazer in an inclusive AI innovation. This was something that it was important for the mayor to bring in to the city when he first got elected for his first term. The first go around. So he got with the individuals who is over Futureland. I know a few of them. Shout out to Miss Alicia Ellis. And look, there's going to be a great time. There's going to be a lot of fireside conversations, lots of music. I'll be DJing along with DJ Step One as well. He'll be closing out the night. I'll be opening. So, look, it's going to be a great time this Thursday. In other news, Cleveland was awarded nearly $2 million to the Southeast side for businesses.
Really?
Oh. Yes. And we love that. Ohio has gained more than 26,000 residents in recent years, but the state itself is still projected to face a long-term decline. So to battle that, they're pretty much trying to spruce up different areas of the city, and the Southeast side is one of them, being awarded $2 million, which is great. We love that.
Is it specifications on the $2 million of what they can use it on?
I'm sure it is.
Positive it is.
I mean, in terms of like what
sure.
businesses, what types of businesses, what type of economic development. I'm curious.
I am too. So once they iron out all of those details, I would definitely keep you all updated on that. This literally just hit like 2 hours ago, so they're like still ironing some things out, but it's a great thing. And then my last one, but not least, Cleveland State University did a comprehensive study on ShotSpotter. For those who may not be familiar with ShotSpotter technology is, it detects gunfire across the city. And this is something that the mayor has been utilizing here in Cleveland. And it has some interesting results. The university found that ShotSpotter, it does consistently detect gunfire, and it does get officers to the scene faster. However, the study also found that with this tech, it doesn't reduce crime. It rarely advances investigation. So it helps with the investigation. It helps speed things along, but rarely. It's not something that is actually like working too well. It seems to be straining the already understaffed police force even more, and it seems to be kind of draining a financial resource for the department. So we'll keep an eye on this for you all and keep you updated on what they choose to do with ShotSpotter. I don't see them letting this go because they went so hard to bring it here. So I don't see them letting it go, to be honest. But they might, if enough people yell about it. I don't know. The objective for the mayor and the governor is to make Cleveland safe. I understand that. I want that too. But we also have to be smart about how we are spending these resources. Yeah. We keep hearing about all these millions of dollars that's coming into the city for the redevelopment and for other things. However, if they're not allocated correctly, we're just going to be right back in the same position.
Well, it's the same thing with that consent decree and all the other stuff that we're spending millions and millions of dollars on, whether they're working, whether they're not, or they're the thing that we need for our communities is, the big $1 million question. And I guess we can say it's $1 million question because we're spending millions of dollars on it to trying to get an answer that we ain't got yet. And I think we ain't got yet.
Are you doing that?
That's all right. Because I think, it's that idea of a Band-Aid. Right. We got to get to the root of some of the problems that exist within the community.
Correct.
And consistently, we putting Band-Aids on top of problems or on top of the scars, the wounds, and hoping that it heals, but we haven't gotten to the root.
That's correct.
Of what the problem is.
Well, that's what Frank Jackson said. Everybody know what the problem is, but the problem is everybody know what the problem is. Ain't nobody doing nothing about the problem. That's the problem.
Can I ask you something, Doc? Is it really like Band-Aids, or is it a tactic to maintain control?
That could be the same if we think about it, because what does a Band-Aid do? It holds in the blood. It controls the situation. It controls it right there. And then I was listening to some of the things that you were saying, and I guess I get concerned too when we talk about revitalization, when we talk about development, and what happens when we start changing the structure of things. What's the audience that comes in? Who does it attract? And so those that really need the resources are the ones that lose out.
That's correct.
In many of these instances. So I think a lot of things is control.
Can I ask you something else before we get started?
I don't even know if I had this answer. I
Go ahead.
When it comes to the snap pauses, there's so many ways that they could have went about doing this. I do understand there is a lot of fraud, a lot of scams. There's a lot of scammers going on. We get it. However, pausing the entirety of the program for everybody. What other ways would you suggest that be done? Because in my head, I'm like, well, we could have still, assessed and vetted everybody who is receiving benefits while not completely stopping them from the people that actually needs
You talking about
these
SNAP?
resources.
Yes.
Oh,
She
it
was
wasn't
talking
about
SNAP,
none
Paul.
of that stuff you talking about.
Please tell me.
No.
That's
Yeah.
why I'm asking.
That's thinking too much.
And
They
that
wasn't
goes-
I be overthinking a
But
lot.
that goes
No.
back. What I say that goes back to some people throwing tantrums, and folks suffered from the tantrum because that was about political control,
Okay.
and people
There
figured
you
fighting back with the health. It was
There you
over the
go.
health
Yeah.
benefits issue, but
Yeah.
the people who needed SNAP were the ones that lost out, specifically those who really needed. But it didn't have anything about. They weren't looking at now as they started trying to put, federal judges started saying, no, you need to give those benefits. Then questions arose as to the deserving and the undeserving, which is
Right.
what America shaped in. It's that whole idea of who deserves and who does not deserve, the have and the have nots. But the original with the benefits being stopped was we just throwing a tantrum.
Yeah, and they found out that the people who they really wanted to affect, they were affecting other people more.
Yep.
And that's what it for whatever reason, they seem to forget that. But they always comes back to that conclusion. But when they initially set it out, it was all about just really, you guys are not going to be able to give us what we want because of the people you represent are not going to be able to hold to that.
And this is who y'all wanted running y'all
yes.
country.
That's what it was.
An immature, unregulated individual who can't. I'm not gonna start. I'm sorry.
But
I'm
what
gonna
they
let y'all
found
get
out
started.
to that point, and I want to finish that point because what they found out is they want to believe that liberals, which they want to throw everybody in that category, only represent poor people. And they only believe that liberals, when this fight was going down, that the liberals was going to break because they knew that you guys, the Liberal Party, the Democrats, represent poor people. Now, there was 5 or 6 of those, or whatever it was, number of Democrats who went over there to end this whole thing we were going through. And some of us,
Wasn't it like 8?
8 of them, some of us feel as if, we see how it affects the black community because we are part of the black community and our social media and everything is in the black community. But there was lines in white communities and other places for food banking,
Yeah.
for people to eat and all that other stuff as well. So to me, it was working. Democrats had them on the ropes. We had them on the ropes. Yeah, it was hard for black folks, but it's been hard for us all along. Yeah, there was some who really was going to lose it and said what they were going to do, and we're going to go through Walmart. That happens. They doing that anyway. If you let them walk out of there, they going to walk out of there with anything. That's why you got to check their receipts now. They was doing that before they lost their snaps. So to me, that's what this whole thing was. We can hold out on this longer than you guys will because of who you represent, and therefore we're going to get our point across. And their whole point was they wanted to pass the bill that they wanted to pass. They want to redo Obamacare and get rid of health care and redo health care.
The Affordable Care Act.
Which, hold on, y'all, and I'm going to tell you what they're going to do. What they're going to do is they're going to give us the same Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, and they're going to throw Donald Trump's name on it. And it's going to be
Not
called
if it's
Trump
left
care.
up to him.
Oh.
Because if it's left up to him, he's trying to give the insurance companies and individuals the responsibility, opportunity to choose their insurance based on your own wants. And so then you pay an insurance company and the government is going to subsidize some of the payment to insurance companies. What that does is let insurance companies now make more money. So
Trump care.
He adds some stuff that people need to be aware
Yes.
of, because when we talk about health insurance and the cost of health insurance, it's ridiculous. And
terrible.
so if you start giving it to the insurance companies and allowing them to because think about it now. If I remember, I got an ambulance bill. Now I was able to appeal it
Right.
Let you all know that listening audience, appeal everything, even if it works or it does not. Appeal it.
Right.
But I was able to appeal, but it was $2,000 for me to be transported from urgent care to the hospital.
Really?
Yes, and I was like, I could drive myself.
What hospital?
I was like, I could drive myself.
From what hospital?
Twinsburg urgent care.
Okay.
To a Hoosier.
Wow.
I
and thought
because
you
I
went from Alabama to
no,
Chicago.
I had shellfish allergies, and because of
Wow.
that, I can't have certain tests done that involve dye, and they needed to look at my lungs, so
Wow.
they had to send me to the hospital, which is why I was able to appeal it. But in that, if you think about that's what my out-of-pocket expense was, $2,000.
Wow.
It with insurance companies, they charge even more, so that it can be supplemented. I'm trying to say this right, supplemented, and then your out-of-pocket expense. So it will even be more if we think about it going to the insurance companies to pay, or us making this decision to pick our own insurance companies.
That is crazy.
So
And that's
he's
where
not
we
working
had
for y'all. He's not working for y'all.
No.
He's not working for anybody
No.
unless you're a billionaire. If you are a billionaire and own a company, then he's working for you. I heard somebody even say, I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and just the whole idea, especially like looking at him and this whole representation, like he's supposed to represent Christian values of
Why you
how
over
do
there
you
with
even,
Bubba?
right, how do you even fall into
I'm sorry. I did not want to bring that up today.
Oh, Bubba.
I did it. I don't.
no,
go ahead.
But
Go
how,
ahead, doctor.
how do you even vote for somebody? And this was from a white woman. She said, I looked at that and she said, I'm not even talking about religion. I'm not talking about anything. But if that's somebody who says that they stand in as a follower of Jesus Christ, it's a complete opposite. But yet you want to perpetuate him as a role model for Christianity.
What he said he wasn't going to heaven.
Right.
He said it himself.
He said it.
Out of his mouth.
He
said
said
I
it
ain't
on the airplane.
I
Wasn't he
mean,
on Air Force One standing there?
listen, even the worst of the worst want to at least say, I think I got a chance. This
Right.
guy admitted
Right.
that I don't even have a chance.
I don't know anybody say I'm so excited to go to hell.
That is insane.
That is totally insane.
But even Jesus in Matthew 11 had to pause and pray. And so to me, if you say you are a follower of Jesus and you can't even for weeks on end pause and say to yourself, this will affect millions of undeserving Americans that do not deserve this treatment. You can, there's no way you're a follower of Christ. I'm sorry.
Well,
Like,
let me tell you now, since we on to that conversation, if you've been following a lot of network TV and what's happening on the networks now, there's more and more commercials and everything out now about Christianity and trying to
Is
get
it? I don't watch.
They really are. They're targeting white males mainly, and they're telling young white males why they should be closer to Christianity and closer to.
Well,
Jesus.
it's this whole idea.
They had a Jesus sitting on the bench with a whole bunch of kids sitting around talking to him.
Was he a white Jesus?
Of course. Of course it was white
See?
Jesus.
But there's this whole idea of reclaiming the family.
Right.
And so conservative Christians are putting forth this concept of reclaiming the family.
Yeah.
And how do you first reclaim the family? By the father, by the male. But in their reclamation of the family, it's the white family. It's the white nuclear family. And so who do I reach out to?
Yes.
I reach out to white males to continue to create
white babies.
White babies
Yeah.
and white supremacy within this place. Yeah.
And what's really crazy, if we want to take it a step further, right now in Ohio, I think it's in the Senate, they're trying to pass a law called Olivia's Law. Did y'all hear about that one?
No.
Wow. So Olivia's Law, or Olivia, I guess is a law, they're trying to implement into public schools, starting as early as the 5th grade, videos and educations on the embryo of a woman when she has a baby, from that step going forward. And they show these videos of what goes down and how it happens. So at the same time where they pushing the Christianity on everyone, which we understand where they at with Christianity, abortions and everything else, they moved all the education for African Americans and all the other stuff that was in school to talk about anything else, whether it was gay and all that stuff. They pushed all of that out. And now they pushing strong Christianity, and now they were able to get that put into schools as they took everything else out of schools.
Well, it takes us back to, and I remember this is, and when Council President Griffin was on, he talked about us starting our careers together.
Right.
And I remember that I was working with the Cleveland schools, inner and outer ring suburbs, on sex education through the Center for Community Solutions, our youth development team. And there was a big push and argument there, and that's what it's making me think, is that we are going back, and that was the early 2000s, mid-2000s, of this whole abstinence-only education, sex education, and what it looked like and what it was about, and that push of, no, we can't talk about the fact that kids are having sex because we need to just push abstinence. And that's what's happening with the whole embryo idea, is we're pushing this abstinence.
Correct.
But it also creates this fear.
Correct.
And
Correct.
that's my,
That's
that
correct.
has
correct.
always been my thing, is that with the church we often push fear instead of a belief system. And if we believe in Christ and follow Christ, we won't have to fear the other things because we're going to shy away from it. But this fear factor just drives me crazy. And especially putting that in a school.
5th grade. It starts in the 5th grade.
And then they always say, well, that's not going to make them think about sex. Well, actually it is.
Right.
It is.
Right. I saw that, and after that, the commercial came on with the Jesus sitting on the bench.
Well, I know when I just
like,
drove
oh
to D.C.
God,
this
here we go.
weekend. I did a quick turnaround and drove to and from D.C. And it was so many posters and what do you call those things? Billboards. It was the same thing. And then I pulled up on a big old Trump sign.
Right.
I said, this is just way too much. But yeah.
Right. It's interesting.
But it's interesting because it's a skewed perspective. And it would be different if you were like we don't know that.
This is cute.
It's just amazing to me of how we push in certain values based on white supremacy.
Right.
In the name of Christianity.
Right. Well, that's why we're here today.
Why? Why is it so amazing?
I think because so many black people are doing it now.
Okay. Because I was gonna say that they've always used Christ.
Yeah, because there's a great book by a white guy, Robert Jones, who talks about white too long, and he talks about Christianity being shaped in white supremacy.
You and Rabbi, y'all be fine.
I would love to see y'all together.
We always read.
Seriously, I would
White Too Long.
There go Rabbi giving me the thumbs up.
Where the heck you get that one from?
And
White Too Long.
So there's another one that I used to use in class that was called, and I can't think of the author, but it was called Dying of Whiteness. But it really talked about how white people, it gave 4 stories in 4 different areas when we're talking about Obamacare, Affordable Care Act. And the fact that these 4 people refused to benefit from Affordable Care Act, and they needed it. Like economically, socially, they fell into the category. But because they had the mentality that it was a black health insurance by a black man, then they would not take it. And so that's why the book was called Dying of Whiteness.
Wow. Well, that's you know what? That fits into all of the stuff that we're here to talk about today, because one of the things we're going to talk about today, and we were setting up our whole program today to talk about this voting that took place. And the question that I'm putting out today, and we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get into that, is voting black racist or is it responsible? And we're going to talk a little bit about why I believe that you should be voting black 100% of the time, unless the circumstance is just really crazy. But most of the time, I believe you should do that, and we're going to talk about that, and me and Dr. Burton are going to break that down using these last elections that just took place in Cleveland and in Cleveland Heights as our tool that we're going to measure all of this by. So when we get right back from this break, we're going to jump right into the conversation. Strategic Moves with Dr. Heather Burton and Kenn Dowell. We'll be right back.
Cleveland, what's up, Cleveland? This is your show, your topics, and your voice. Join in for What's on Your Mind Tuesday on 95.9 FM WOVU. Call in or comment on social media. Let's make this conversation unforgettable. Streaming live on WOVU.
All right. We're back.
What's up?
You tuned in to Strategic Moves Radio Show with Kenn Dowell and Dr. Heather Burton, and we're here live at WOVU 95.9 FM. If you're tuning in, listening to us, and you're in your car, or you want to catch us live, you can catch us on all our platforms: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, as well as LinkedIn. We're going live on those channels, and if you got a comment you want to leave, just leave a comment in the chat, and we'll make sure we put the chat up on there, and we'll get your question answered by a doctor or myself, and we'll also leave your comment up, and we'll shout out your comment as well. Also, you can catch us on iHeartRadio, and you can catch us on WOVU.org. Ooh, let me get that right. www.wovu.org, and you can catch us live.
What's
on
W dot?
You know, that's some. I was about to say. I thought I was on the podcast.
I just had to.
You almost caught me off guard.
I had to come in with that. I'm like, what's W dot?
Yeah, no, you catch us on WOVU 90. See, now I'm all screwed up. Catch us on WOVU.org, and that's where you can catch us live on that if you're walking in and you want to continue to hear us and you're not in your car or somewhere like that. So today,
I love when the rabbi come in the door because he always bringing me some books.
He's bringing you some books. He found a white
like
me.
Yep, Tim Wise.
He found another white like
and
me.
Dear White America. And you know what's interesting? Sorry, you all. I'm going to say this real quick with the listening audience. Is Rabbi just gave me 2 books by Tim Wise. And when I worked at the University of Akron, Tim Wise was a speaker there. And I used to say it's amazing how these white people, all right, let me rephrase it. How white people, I'm going to be political, how white people can listen to Tim Wise and accept him, but the same things that I said to you, you couldn't accept it from me, but you could accept it from this white man as truth.
Robert D'Angelo.
Yep. Robin DiAngelo and white fragility and nice racism. Talks about, and it leads us in, Ken, coming back to our show of topic.
Back into our show of topic of voting, because that's what all of this is in. We're going to get it going with every election season. Black folks get hit with the same accusation, or you're voting for the black candidate. That's racist. Meanwhile, white voters can support white candidates every day of the week in every election in every district, and we don't think twice about it. So let's break it down. When the majority group already holding political power, resource, and control vote for their own, that's preserving dominance. When an underrepresented group of voters vote for their own, that's restoring balance. That's basically how I look at this whole situation. One who preserves supremacy, and the other protecting survival is basically what we're looking at. That's different, and when we're talking about various different races that went on in Cleveland, and we're going to talk about that, where if we break down some of the numbers and things that took place. There were 2 elections that took place here in Cleveland. Those 2 elections were the ones that I'm going to look at is the one in Cleveland Heights, where we had Cleveland Heights is a city where it's 48% white, 39% black. The rest of the city is mixed with Asian and other types of ethnics in that community. But we had 2 candidates that was running for that seat. We had an African-American woman who was well qualified, well respected in the community, and she was a councilwoman, and she was running up against a white gentleman who's pretty new to the community, moved into the community, set his roots there about 10 years ago, and got in there. Meanwhile, the voters showed up for the white candidates and droves. I mean, they had it all together. They were all, looked like it was unified. In some cases, my son gave me he called me and he said, "Dad, I think we're in trouble out here." I said, "Why you say that?" He said, "I think they broke out the unicorn, what do you call it?" He said, "They broke out the horn." I said, "The horn?" He said, "Yeah, man, they called the horn, man, and it's just like boatloads of people walking up here." He said, "Man, it looked like it's like 6 to 1. He was like, I mean, it's just white folks coming from everywhere coming up here to vote, and they're going straight to him, shaking his hand, and they walking right in the door. He told me that at around about 3:30, and he said, "Man, I think they were doing." So the white community basically showed up like they supposed to, and they got behind who they felt was the best candidate, where African Americans, basically, we did normally what we usually do. We were lack to show up. We had very little. Our numbers as far as turnout was below average of where it should have been, and there were more African Americans who voted for the white candidate than there was white candidates who who actually supported the African American candidate. So in that particular case, we're looking at that situation again, saying, you know, African Americans, why didn't we show up? Why didn't we take an opportunity to look at that situation and make the best out of it? Having representation is what's important. When we vote for our own, we vote for representation. We vote for an opportunity to be at the table. But meanwhile, we go into Ward 10, where we have a situation in Cleveland where we have a ward that's 90% African American. But they ran against a lifelong incumbent, Michael Polisic, who is 67% of the vote, from a young African American man named Anthony Harrison, who was running. Again, we looking at that situation. Why do the majority of black community keep voting themselves out of representation? And one would say, well, Polisic does represent us there, but do we? Because one, he's been in the office for over 50 years, and actually being in that office and not having anyone that's in a position that you can say over 50 years that you believe should be able to take your place and be able to elevate us as a community to move to the next level. But in fact, we take down someone that we had in that position who may have had that opportunity. So again, my question to our community and to everybody is, why do we continue to vote out our interests? Now, one would say there was some other elections that were around nationally that took place. I believe there was a race that was in one of the states. There was an African American woman. She was a MAGA running against a white woman who was running, and the white woman took minority of the vote, and most people supported that. And there's a lot of flack on the internet about people not supporting the African American candidate in that particular race. And why didn't we do that? Well, I'm here to say that I don't think that we can support every candidate that goes, because I think there's level that you have to get to. But I do believe in best cases, and when we can, it's always best for us to support the candidate that's African American so that we can have them be in that. And so, Doctor, the question I want to ask to you, why do you think the community, even the majority, do not consistently support the black candidate?
Well, several things. But first, I need to back up. Because I need to back up to your title. Is voting black racist? And so I get tired of people using the word racist and racism as it relates to the black community. We've got to specify the definition of racism and stop using that loosely to define what we do within this country. First of all, when we look at racism, and when we look at race, Ta-Nehisi Coates said that race is the child of racism, meaning that racism came first in order to create race. Correct. Racism is about power, control. Black people don't have power and control, so there is no way that they can be racist in any shape, form, action, or behavior. Now, if we want to say, is it discriminatory? Different definition. But we got to stop with this whole accusations of blacks being racist because we don't have the power. We don't have the control. Therefore, when we look at the definition, and you said it here, when we look at the definition of what racism is, it's about power. It's about control. It's about political power. It's about economic power. We don't possess that. So there's no way. We're not the dominant in anything.
No, that's correct.
Right, we're not.
That's correct.
So in order for you to be racist.
That's correct.
In the theoretical, technological term of racism, you have to have the control and the dominance, and we don't have it. So that's number one. Is voting black racist? No, because voting black, it may be, and I'm not even going to use discriminatory. And then the other thing that I will say before I even get into this question of the why is that not all kinfolk, not all skin folk are kinfolk.
There you go. Right.
So I don't know if I can agree with this statement, being responsible to vote for all black people because they're running. Because just because you black, you may not have my interest in mind.
That's correct.
And my best interest in mind.
That's correct.
It's important for us to know the true platforms that I use true, not loosely, but true platforms of political candidates. Because a lot of folks can come into the space and they will switch parties just to get votes.
That's correct.
They will switch parties just to get votes.
They do that all the time.
And so what is the true platform of these people? Where do they stand? Who do they talk to? Who do they socialize with? If I see you outside of a campaign season, who are you around? Who are you supporting? Black people, we have to figure out, why do we have such a disconnect from the electoral process? Why do we have a disconnect from elections, from voting? That's number one. Is that I think it's less about voting for Black people or the candidates to be responsible than we just don't vote. And the question becomes, why don't we vote and why don't we value? There's a distrust within this country. And we know that. There's a distrust not only with the political system, the educational system, the economic system. And so with that level of distrust, why am I even going to vote? Well, because I don't believe that you're going to do anything for me. I don't believe that my situation is going to improve. I don't believe that anything's going to change. Unlike white people who this country was founded for and founded on, I'm going to vote because I understand that my vote matters. I understand that my vote means something.
That's correct.
So when we talk about that, it's our own disconnect. And there is a huge disconnect from the political process.
Well, I want to also add in there, when we talk about that responsibility, that the reason why I picked these two races, because it's important, is because I think when we get to your mayor, your governor, and other races like that, those races are very important to our community, but there's a lot of resources and things that are given out in those races. And Rabbi has stopped in. He's going to join us on the panel in a hot second. I got a question for you too, Rabbi. But
how many people really know that, Ken?
But this is where I'm getting at with that, is that when I talk about voting Black and responsible, I think when I really want to hone in on is really the hyper local, your councilman, your school board, your people of that nature. Because those jobs or those positions are important for us to make it to the next level in Congress, anything else. So in order for us to say when our representation and how we're going to build, it has to start at the beginning. And so therefore, when I look at us as Black folks and saying it has to be almost automatic, well, it almost need to be automatic for when you're voting for your council person. One would say, well, most time it's Black folks voting for Black folks because the area is mainly African American and you vote for. But again, we still need to be in the habit of voting, because us not showing up is still a form of us not voting.
And I think that's the bigger issue.
That's the bigger issue. So
because I think if we came out,
right,
we probably would, I'll give 8 out of 10. Would vote for the Black candidate.
If we came out.
If we came out.
If we came out.
But the issue is we not even coming out.
Well, we're not coming out for the small ones.
Yep.
Because we'll do a little bit better in the presidential. You do a little bit better in those because they spend millions of dollars to try to get people to come do that. And my point is, where we losing here as a people is we lose when we don't win the seat as mayor in Cleveland Heights for African Americans. We lose representation. We lose everything. Opportunity. We lose dollars. We lose when we didn't get an opportunity to keep an African American male in that position. Even though Mike Polisic, a good friend of mine, I guess you could say that. I had no problem with this.
You got a white friend.
Jesus.
I'm just kidding.
Doctor,
that was
we're not on
podcast
the
material.
podcast.
Sorry.
Doctor, we're not on the podcast.
Sorry.
So Mike Polisic, this ain't a slap at him at all. This is only a slap to our community about the opportunity that we missed out on, because he did what he always do. They go out, they vote, and people always vote. I mean, I ain't expecting him to do nothing for us. I'm expecting our community to do something. I must have hit a button because Unicorn grabbed her mic.
I just had a quick question. Did I miss here, or was it the Black community that asked him to rerun? To my understanding, he was about to retire.
He was going to retire.
And it was us. That's what I heard. That's
why I asked.
When we say us, it's only a few people.
But they still us.
Yeah, they was us. And that's part of our problem.
But that was to say, that's the generalization that we have to be careful of, because we are split in terms of our own political values, views.
That's correct.
That this type of stuff, this happened before even the election started. And so if you've got people saying, no, go on and run again, and they representing us,
correct,
in terms of racial demographics, we running into another problem.
Rabbi, We said a lot. What you got?
I used to be the precinct committeeman and ward leader in Cleveland Heights, and I talked with our black candidate late in the game, just a few days before the end of the election, and I shared with her, listening to her campaign presentation, I would not have voted for her.
Really?
Because her campaign speeches and presentation was negative, very negative.
Who?
DeVita's.
When?
And I met with her. I met her. What we filmed in the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very, very negative.
Really?
The gist of it was she was going to restore the community.
Okay.
Here's a community that's on the upswing. So what are you going to restore it to?
What upswing is it on, Rabbi?
It's on the upswing.
On what?
Cleveland Heights is on the upswing.
We just went through a whole situation where we had a mayor that they had to recall.
Oh, well,
no, and hold on.
Okay.
The whole time while he was in office, he was unable to get anything done up there. We went through 4 years of no development, 4 years of nothing being done up in that community. That's why they recalled him. So you're lucky this ain't the podcast.
No.
Let me settle down.
Okay, all right. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about the mismanagement of that particular mayor. But I'm talking about the overall atmosphere of Cleveland Heights in itself. Yes, he did a terrible job, and he should have been recalled. All right, but DeVita was talking about. Had she talked about redeveloping the trust that you had in the office of the mayor, then yes. She and I had a long conversation, a couple-hour conversation, and she said, man, I wish I had met you before, all right, because I recrafted her campaign speech, and she said, I see what you're saying, and I agree with you. This is where I made the mistake.
I have to agree to disagree with you, son.
Okay. Well, she and I agreed,
That's
okay.
all. Well, I can't tell, so that's all I'm going to tell you,
All right.
because whatever you told her to do, obviously it didn't work, because
Well, it was too late. It was
African-Americans over in the community didn't vote for her.
He said he told her, and then she recrafted, but she said she should have did it earlier.
Earlier, yes.
So no, I believe that wasn't the issue. I believe the issue up there was something totally different, but that's not what I believe happened from your perspective. And you got your right to believe what you want to
And
believe.
then the other piece of it is normally they vote by ethnicity and not party. All right, we vote party and not ethnicity. That's one of the things. And then going back to what you're sharing with us, racism has no cultural, political, or biological. It's not a racial, cultural, or biological construct. It has no place. In fact, it comes from the Italian word razzi, R-A-Z-Z-I. All right, and it's coined by them in about 1541 or so. And we have to change our narrative of how we view things and what we're dealing with. There is only one race on the face of the earth, and that's the human race. When we change that narrative and begin to look at it from that viewpoint, okay, and that we can discriminate against one another by ethnicity, by color of skin, then we can begin to win the battle. But as long as we try to fight racism, we're going to fight a losing battle, because there's only one race on the face of the earth, and that's the human race.
Okay, let's talk about some history. Go ahead, Dr.
No, I was going to ask you, so what was the problem?
The problem up there? It was exactly
From
what
your
I started
perspective.
off the program with. White people in that community did what they traditionally do. They came out and they voted for their candidate. African Americans did what we traditionally do. We didn't vote. And when we did vote, some of us felt, I guess, the way that the rabbi felt, that she didn't give a message that black folks felt it was strong enough for me to support a candidate, even though you're African American. I want to vote because of whatever reason. And I believe that's what at the end of the day, that's what it is. But my point is that African Americans need to support each other. The stuff that he's talking about is nothing but a conversation. And he's telling me that he had a conversation with her that took probably 2 or 3 minutes, because I was there when he had the conversation, that he said enlightened her to change her mind about how she feel about her campaign, to want to change it. So if it's that easy, and if that's all it took, then African Americans still should have supported her, because if she's in the office, we could have had the same I'm on the radio. We could have had the same conversation with her to help her become a better leader. That's the part that I keep talking about, and we never get there because people feel they never give us an opportunity where you will give the white candidate all that opportunity because they win. This is how they go. They win the election. They in office, we done lost. We end up having to go sit down and talk with them anyway to change their perspective, to ask them to don't forget about our community. Can you look out for us for our community? And then they say, okay, I'm going to appoint somebody to be the person who look over minority affairs and this kind of thing. It happens. We change perspectives of people all the time, but we always give them the benefit where we don't give us the benefit. And that's the problem that I have with
we internalize. I mean, we internalize self-hate very often too.
Correct.
And we can't negate that. And that we see somebody and we also say, because we've been so conditioned to whiteness,
correct,
that we say, oh no, I can't vote for that candidate
that's
because
correct.
I don't want anybody to think that I'm voting just because they're black.
That's correct.
That's
correct.
So that's a lot of internal and when I say
correct.
internalized community issues, not just individual. And I keep going back, and we said this earlier, talking about the Band-Aid, the root of the problem. How do we get to solving the issue of people understanding in these local elections how important your voice is? And just like you said, no matter who the candidate is, those 10% that vote or those 10% that's fighting the issues, we're going to go to the white or black candidate to fight the issues. So in that, why can't we fight the black candidate?
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I don't
Behind
disagree with you.
closed doors.
Yeah.
Behind
Closed doors.
Right.
I agree, Uni. There's some stuff we do not need to make put in the media and social media out.
So let me give you a little history. Let's talk about some history for a few minutes. When formerly enslaved African Americans got the right to vote during Reconstruction, over 2,000 black elected officials held office. And here's why. Because black community voted for people who spoke the truth, understood their struggles, and were vested in their salvation. Voting black wasn't racial. It was necessary. And it's still necessary till this day. That's the only thing that I'm trying to say. Fast forward, in 1971, the Congressional Black Caucus formed. It was because 13 members of Congress said we cannot be drowned out in Washington. And basically, again, we're looking at a situation where I'm talking about where we have to start looking at candidates and ourselves to say if we're not going to get our representation or our fair share at the table, we got to put people there who represent us. And the only way we're going to get there is by voting and by sticking together. My challenge to, like I was getting on to Ward 10 and Mike Palencia, isn't so much the fact that I believe he shouldn't be in the office. If people feel that he should be there and they voted for him in those numbers. But the challenge I got to that community and to the councilman, it's been 50 years. Do you think y'all can bring up somebody else that's qualified to run in that area that can represent? What happens if anything happens to him today or tomorrow? We haven't did anything as a people in that community to make sure that there's somebody in position. I'm strong for African-American males, just like Dr. Burton is strong for African-American women. That's why she's here. We about that. That's where we're at. So I hate to see any time an African-American male is taken down in a position of somewhere where we could, only because our own people was of our demise. The same thing is what I look like when I see in Cleveland Heights in an area that's truly having some racial issues. I mean, everybody knows that. Like you say, usually some stuff we say behind closed doors, some stuff we got to say out loud. And that's one of them that we know they having some challenges. Now, is it as racial where you say, oh, don't go out there? No, it ain't that. I say we having some challenges. And with those challenges, you have to fix them.
And I go back to those challenges also arise when we think about, again, we think about the founding, the historical perspective of Cleveland.
Correct.
At one point, it was the second largest segregated city. Those values still lie within a lot of folks. So you're going to have racist issues within these communities. I don't care if we move into the communities, depending on the community, you still going to have those racist ideologies that exist. And that's what you're fighting against in Cleveland Heights. That's what you're fighting against in Shaker. That's what you're fighting against in other suburban areas, because a lot of the ideology still exists. And I don't disagree with the fact that we need to think about our candidates and our future. But I want to go back to your history lesson. And I think it's important that when we think about specifically after during Reconstruction, that over 2,000 Black elected officials were in office, is that Black people were in a place where they had hope. They believed that this country was going to shift during Reconstruction.
That's correct.
We got slapped down after Reconstruction from the KKK, legalized Jim Crow segregation that came into play. And then we get the Civil Rights Act of 64 with some hope that there's going to be a shift.
That's correct.
And then we get slapped down again. And then we get some hope. And we get slapped down again when Trump get in office.
That's correct.
And so I think this is what hurts us as a community, is that we go up and then we get slapped down and the hope diminishes. And when the hope diminishes, people are like, I'm tired.
That's correct.
I'm tired. What is voting gonna get me? And especially if you look at the historical landmark and the historical tradition, what has happened. So I think that plays another thing. But I think we also have to pull back and look at how much power the Black community actually has if we step up and do and see. And I think, what did I just hear? Like 1.2. So there's speaking of, as we move forward and we think about going into Thanksgiving weekend, there's a push, I can't think of the organization right now, but to do a blackout. Not a boycott, but a blackout during Black Friday.
That's
not
correct.
supporting Amazon, not supporting Walmart, not supporting, and your own list. You may have your own list that said, this store did this to me. But how do you support Black businesses? How do you support small businesses? And not doing Black Friday, not doing Cyber Monday, but showing the economic value that we give to this country and how much money we spend. When we begin to realize what we possess and what we have, that's when we can move the needle forward. But we got to get out of this complacency. We got to get out of this comfortableness. This is my lot. This is what I was given, and I'm not trying to move forward.
We only have a few moments, and I have one question. Is that okay?
Sure,
Ken?
go ahead.
How do we reignite that passion, that fire, that drive within the Black community to want better for ourselves and our community and from each other?
I think we got to continue to do stuff like this. I think it's about having the hard conversations. You know, it's about being able to sit out and talk about these type of things, you know, and to bring it back out to people about the importance of it. I think the younger generation, which is the generation that's always the one we're trying to get to vote, because as you think about it, the older generation is dying off. So as it dies off, the numbers started to decrease. You know, the voter, like you say, back early, we was voting at 80%. As that number started and younger people started getting it, that gap got wider and wider. So what's important, I believe, is my generation has to continue to push forth this effort of getting it out there. I think it's a lot of still old school politics as it relates to having conversations in small groups, and now it's social media, using social media to talk more about this thing, and not so much just about, you should vote, but why it's important, and making them feel like there is some power in it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I say reigniting, and that's a great question of how do we reignite, and coming from an individual lens of how do we start getting people to see the power that they have as an individual? How do we start educating one by one that? And I'm gonna go Jesus right now. But we start saying that everything that God made was good. And because God made you, you are good. And so when you start thinking about that goodness then leads to some power politically, economically. And you start sitting in a place of complacency, a place of a place lower than what the expectations of you are. I think that we gotta get people, especially us, to recognize the value that we are as people.
That's correct.
And as individuals. And I think that's the thing that's the disconnect. I think about everything that's happening. You started the show with talking about the number of shots fired. Is we get into that place because there's no value of life. And when there's no value of life, why should there be a value in voting? And so how do we reformulate that to get people to recognize your life matters and your voice matters?
And the responsibility. See, there's another part about this thing that most people has to have, and why I say it was responsible. There's a responsibility that you have to do a lot of things as adults. And I say this, to my kids that, my Kennedy come in every once in a while and fall on the bed and say, I hate being an adult. I don't want to go out there. I'd rather just stay here.
Me too, Kennedy.
Yeah, but it's a part of adulting. And being a part of what is society put us all out here to do. So I think that's the biggest problem that we have when people are not doing that, is that it's a responsibility. And we're responsible to make sure we vote for people who best represent us. And the only way we're going to do that is by us getting out there to vote. So we're going to be winding down our program today. I thank you all for coming in and tuning in. Listen, if you got any events that you want us to make sure you can do that. If you want to leave us a message or anything, you can do that by going to our website or leave it at info@astrategicmoves.com, and we will make sure we get your comments and everything brought up. Doc, you got anything to go before we go?
All I'm going to say is we got to wrap it up. We are at our time, so have a great week, you all, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Peace.